Welcome to Tentative Title with Tim. This is a podcast about creativity, about process, about filmmaking, and about screenwriting. Welcome everybody back to the podcast. I hope everybody is doing well. So for this week, I wanted to talk about action movies. And not just action movies, but the action movies of like the 90s. And how there was something quite special about them because they were fun movies, for sure, but they were also just fueled with nonsensical testosterone at the same time. Like, you would have these big action scenes and you would have like these shootouts, and it was just a fun time at the movies, even though, henchmen are being shot and, things are being blown up and all kinds of damage and chaos is happening on screen. But, as a viewer, you didn't look at these movies and think, oh, well, that could totally happen in real life. Like, there were hints of like, well, maybe that could happen or, whatever. But in the most part, it was a fun concept, grounded somewhat in reality, and then hyper realized to make it into an action film. And on top of that, they would have big stars pinned against each other. And that was interesting to watch as well, because not only did you have like the nonsense of like the action and things blowing up and people, shooting each other, but you also had the acting chops of these well-established actors, sometimes giving very funny and absurd dialogue, but you could tell that they were having fun. Like I guess that was the big part of it, was that out of all the absurdity, you could tell that these actors signed on because they read the synopsis, or it was pitched to them, and they looked at that and they said, that is a fun concept. I want to play this hero, this villain, just so I can just have time on screen to, fulfill the, whatever the script needs me to do. And while they're doing it, you can tell that they're having so much fun. They're chewing the scenery. They are giving great moments. They're not taking it too seriously, and it's great. It's so great. And I think for me, I was getting a bit bogged down by, I guess, the deconstruction of the hero over the last, it seems like it's been 10, 15 years of just, okay, let's take the hero trope and let's turn it on its head, or let's make the hero an anti-hero, or let's find out what the hero's trauma is and all this kind of stuff. And, not to say that exploring those elements of the hero is a bad thing, because it is interesting. It is interesting to go and find out what makes a hero, but also to find out like what stops a hero from being successful, or what is deep inside a hero that that they have to overcome as well. So I'm not trying to talk bad about those films and those shows that try to analyze what makes a hero, or to try to put them even more into the real world and say, well, a hero is not completely a hero because they have so much baggage, or they have so much about themselves that maybe is also as much of a villain as they are a hero. That makes it really fascinating. But when it came to like these action movies, it's like the good guy was the good guy, the bad guy was the bad guy, and you did understand, why the bad guy was a bad guy. Like there was a lot of moments where the bad guy could just explain why they were doing what they were doing, and sometimes it made sense, and other times it was just complete nonsense. And you're like, well, okay, you're the villain, we're supposed to hate you, so let's hope that the hero wins, which he most likely will. So, but let's talk about that in terms of just the viewing experience. So when you go into a movie, sometimes you want to know that the good guy is going to win. And as boring as that may sound, it actually psychologically is beneficial to the audience, because you get to, one, believe in the goodness of humanity, but also you get to see how the hero can overcome a huge obstacle, which is, it could be, the whoever the villain is, whatever they are dangling over the heroes, like, over them to, to try to get the upper hand, or to try to get at least what they want, which usually is something that is considered to be pretty evil and terrible. And then you have the hero who's coming in and they're like, no, like, you villain are being selfish. You need, like, what you want is going to hurt a lot of people, and I can't let that happen. And seeing how the hero is able to come up against a villain that may be stronger than they are and have more resources, and just be, all in all, like, you could see the villain winning. Like, those are the best villains, where you're just like, oh, I don't know how the hero is going to win. Like, the villain has so much more going for them, but yet the hero has something else that the villain doesn't have, and is able to, conquer whatever the obstacle is, to win the day. And I think just, like, viewing those kinds of stories, one, it gives us a chance to have something aspirational to look up to. Not that, like, we have to, like, the next day we, like, say we watch, like, an Arnold Schwarzenegger, action movie, and we're like, well, tomorrow I'm going to the gym so I can be just as jacked as Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it's like, well, I mean, that's a nice goal and all, and that is health positive, but the likelihood of having those kinds of muscles is very low. But you can have the characteristics of one of his characters that is very positive, as a hero, that you can strive to have in your own life. And to be able to see those aspirational traits in a character allows us to walk away from that movie thinking, my life could be better. I could go about things a lot better, even though, like, I don't feel like my life is together. I don't feel like I can ever amount to anything. Watching this hero on screen overcome their obstacles gives me hope that I can overcome my own obstacles. And, I mean, granted, like I said, in an action movie, it's chaos. There's absurd stakes. Like, none of us are going to be in a position where we have to save the world. Like, we're not going to be the guy or gal who has to go and, like, take out some villain on a, some evil secret layer, to win, to make sure that the world doesn't, fall into, some kind of, like, I don't know, some evil world order or something like that. Like, we're never going to do that. But we can at least watch these films and look at the traits of the hero and say, wow, that it, if I, work hard enough, or if I just kind of, like, if I take more charge of my life, then I might possibly be able to be a small portion of what it takes to be a hero. And especially to, like, maybe there is a situation in our life where we need to step up, where we need to be brave, where we need to step out of our comfort zone and actually, like, do something that we never thought that we could do, and are able to do it. And I'm not saying that, like, if you go out and watch a bunch of action films, it's going to turn you into some kind of hero. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the reminder that we get from watching movies that there is goodness in the world, that there are people who are selfless. Like, those are traits that I think society needs more of. That, it's like we can put ourselves out there to be living for the goodness of others around us, and to be heroes in our own lives. And I think what happens when we deconstruct the hero, when we kind of make fun of like the action tropes and the these aspirational characters, is that we start to doubt whether or not we ourselves can have an effect in the world. And I've been thinking about this for a long time. It hasn't just been like this past week, but the idea of when you're watching, a movie or a show, and there's a character that is very, like, you think is going to be a good character, and then you find out that like they're not a good character. They're two-faced, and they're just like they're very they're actually very sinister when it comes down to it. It's like, from a storytelling aspect, that's interesting, because it's like, wow, you have this character who seems to be good, and then when they close the door and they're in their like private life, you see that they're a terrible person. And it's like, on the one hand, it's like, okay, yeah, it's giving the idea to the audience that like nobody is fully good and nobody's fully bad. Like, that's a healthy perspective to give the audience about just the world around us, because it's true. Like, none of us are completely like heroes, and none of us are completely evil. And it's like we're all in this spectrum in the middle of like, some things we're very we're very brave about, and other things we run away, or we go about it the wrong way, and it's not, it just doesn't, it doesn't benefit others the way in which we approach our lives in certain aspects. And so that's why I think like having the genuine kind of like action movie where there's the hero, without it being cynical, I think we kind of can come back around to that again. We've been away from that, and we've like I said, deconstructed the idea of the hero. But it's gotten to the point where it's like, now we're deconstructing heroes who were established as heroes. And so we're taking those characters that, growing up, like for me, I'm an 80s kid. I grew up in the 80s, and I grew up with like Star Wars and Indiana Jones and just like all those like action adventure characters like that. And there were a lot of times when I was like, wow, I wish I had like the bravery of those characters. I feel like I'm just like, I'm not like good enough, or like, I'll never reach a point at which I could accomplish or be good at what I want to do the way in which these characters are. And which was like very absurd, but it's like, they taught you to like work hard. They taught you like you gotta put in the work. You gotta train, and so with that, they've taken that away, and it's not necessarily because I think the creators like wanted to necessarily do that, but it's just we're in this mode where we're deconstructing all of that, and we're saying, well, this hero was mythic, and now we're going to dig into like their what may have been wrong about that, or like in a way it's like not shaming the audience, but it's just like in a way it kind of says to the audience like, you were wrong for believing that heroes exist. And that's kind of what I've been feeling about just the movies that have been coming out and the shows, it's like there are no heroes anymore, or it doesn't feel like there are heroes anymore because we're so ready to, or so willing to pull them down from their pedestal and say, no, like there are no such thing as heroes. There's only heroes that we perceive as heroes, but deep down inside, they're just as crappy as we are. And, like, how dare you aspire to be like any better than you are, or aspire to be like these characters because they're not as good or as you thought they were. And okay, like I said, I'm not against like digging into what makes a hero, or like maybe a hero wasn't necessarily a hero their entire existence, especially because they're fictional characters. It's like, okay, well, there's no reason to deconstruct a hero sometimes. Just let a hero be a hero and go make another story that is about heroes, and you can deconstruct, which they have done. And I give the creative people credit for making a character that was a hero, and the whole intention of that character was to deconstruct the idea of the superhero or of the hero in general. And I give them credit because it's like they from the beginning they're saying, this is what we're doing with this character. We are going to take what you think a hero is, and we're going to just figure out why they're not a hero, or and stuff like that. Anyway, so I mean, I'm kind of veering off a bit, but these action movies not only are fun, but I think they kind of like they kind of set a tone to the audience that like that you might possibly be able to handle challenges, and not that you do it in the same way that the heroes do it, but that you can actually like that it's possible to overcome things because you're watching somebody on screen overcome things, and that gives you some hope. And even if it doesn't, you still get to watch a kick-ass action movie where the bad guys lose, the good guys win. I mean, unfortunately, a bunch of stuff gets blown up, and people like henchmen die. But when you walk out of the theater, you're like, yeah, well, like none of that actually happened. It was a fun time. I got to immerse myself in this world for 2 hours, and now I can go. I got to exercise maybe some like testosterone. If you're a guy, you're like, yeah, I got to see men be men, and that was awesome. And now I can go about my life, and do responsible things, do the things that I need to do as an adult, or and then I can come back and when life is tough and say, hey, I'm gonna watch this movie and watch this hero like succeed, because like at least I can see somebody succeed, because I don't feel like my life is succeeding at this moment. But it makes me feel good to see the hero win, because like I feel like I'm the hero of my own story, and if I can just be brave enough, if I can do more, then maybe I can be just as aspirational as these characters. So yeah, I'm it's a blanket statement, obviously, like not every action hero is going to be aspirational and all that, but it's like just the idea of what of how it feels to watch those kinds of movies, and how like we don't get to do that much anymore. We don't get to feel that anymore of like just feeling good about a hero winning, and feeling good about a villain who has these grand plans like being taken down by the hero, and seeing like the selfishness be overrun by the selfless. Like if anything, that is like the message, or the the lesson to take away from some of these movies is like to be selfless. Like, give of yourself to the people around you, to the people you love. Put your life on the line when it counts. It's like, why not? Isn't that what we're supposed to do anyway? Isn't that like how we're supposed to live our lives and not be selfish? Like, maybe action movies are a lot deeper than I give them credit for. So anyway, guys, that's kind of like the complicated, not so complicated thought process that I've been having just about film and TV shows that have been coming out, and I've been revisiting a lot of older films because I wanted to feel good. I wanted to revisit a time when I would go to the movies and I would see an action adventure with a hero that I could aspire to be, and just feel good for a couple hours and then say, okay, now I'm back to my life and I got responsibilities and I got things to do, and it's not all going to be fun, and some of it may be very mundane, but at least I got to go on this story, on this adventure with these characters, and now just kind of disconnect from the world a little bit. So all right, guys, that's all I got. I hope everything is going well, like I said, especially in terms of like, the pandemic and all this kind of stuff. Like we're still in it, but we're not in it. It's a really, it's a gray area, I know, and but it all in all, at least in the States, it feels like things are getting better, and I hope and pray that it's getting better in other parts of the world. If you're listening from those other areas, I hope it's getting better. That's the least I can ask of what's going on, is that just the situation and even your personal situation is getting better. That's all I can ask for. All right, guys, I will talk to you on the next one. And also, if you want to connect with me, I have a email for the podcast. It's tentative.title.with.tim.podcast@gmail.com. Also, I have a Twitter account for the podcast where I post episodes, and that is @title_Tim. And you can find also on the Facebook page, I have a page for the podcast, so you can connect with me there. Looking forward to hearing from all of you, and until then, I'll catch you on the next one.